Hi, and welcome to Santiago de Chile. In my last episode, I was telling you everything you need to know before you visit Chile. But today, we're going to go directly to its capital, which is called Santiago de Chile, but most people know it simply as Santiago. So, Santiago was founded on February 12th, 1541, by the Spanish conqueror Pedro de Valdivia, and he chose the Mapocho River Valley because this had a very temperate climate and it was also being inhabited by indigenous communities that had a lot of agricultural knowledge. Initially, the city was named Santiago del Nuevo Extremo in honor of the apostle Saint James, which in Spanish is called Santiago, and the kingdom of Galicia. But just a few months after its founding, the city was almost completely destroyed in an attack led by the Mapuche resistance. Even so, the colonists rebuilt the city, and little by little, Santiago grew and became the political and economic center of the country. During this colonial era, Santiago was a quiet city, but everything changed in the 19th century when Chile gained independence from Spain, and then Santiago became the definite capital of this country. Since then, it has started growing tremendously from a small city nestled among hills into a metropolis that has more than 7 million inhabitants today, which represents almost 40% of the entire Chilean population. When I visited Santiago, I stayed 4 days in the city, and I think this was enough time to discover the most important things here. During these days, two of the days were dedicated entirely to exploring Santiago. Another day, I took an excursion into Valparaíso and Viña del Mar, which I will tell you a little more in my next episode. And the last day was the day that I took my flight back. During this short stay, I stayed in a very nice area which is called Providencia area, and here I highly recommend it because it was close to many restaurants and it was a very walkable area, which is extremely useful when you're a tourist. My last logistical tip is going to be that I visited in December because this was the beginning of summer. And Santiago at this time was hot. It was ranging about 25 to 30 degrees Celsius. So remember that the entire southern hemisphere will have opposite seasons to the northern hemisphere. And most times the best time to visit will be either November or December. My journey through Santiago began on Avenida Libertador Bernardo O'Higgins. And I know that these names may sound confusing, so I'm going to be writing them while I'm talking about them. But this very big street or avenue is going to be known by locals as La Alameda. This grand artery is going to be the pulse of the city because this is a place where all of the history and daily life is going to unfold. And the first significant stop that you're going to have in this one is going to be the magnificent La Moneda Palace. This is going to be an impressive neoclassical style building, which was originally a colonial mint, but now it serves as the presidential seat. It's a place that has a lot of history bearing witness to pivotal moments in Chilean history, including the 1973 coup d'etat that I was talking about in my previous episode. Just outside, you can also explore the Plaza de la Constitución, where you'll find the statue of Salvador Allende, and it also has a part of his speech that he said just before dying on this statue. Then you can transition into a more modern plaza that's called the Plaza de la Ciudadanía, and this is a vibrant space that has a lot of fountains, sculptures, and a fascinating underground cultural center that will be free, and it's certainly worth a visit. From La Moneda Palace, you can then walk into the charming pedestrian walkways that will lead you into Plaza de Armas, which is the undeniable historical heart of Santiago. This square is going to mark the exact spot where the city boundaries were defined, and you will be able to see this on the floor just ahead of the cathedral. And all of this is going to include a very powerful colonial atmosphere, but it's also very beautiful. And surrounded the square, you're going to find a collection of very important buildings, including the Metropolitan Cathedral, see the Central Post Office, and the Comprehensive National History Museum. If time allows, I would recommend entering from the street into the cathedral because this one it has a very beautiful architecture and it also has a powerful monument to the heroes of the Battle of La Concepcion, which is a significant military tribute. So I believe that you should walk in and see it and visit it just even if it's for a couple minutes. Then, very nearby, you will see that there's another place that's recommended, and it's called Casa Colorada, a free museum that is within a colonial house, and it will give you a glimpse into how all of the elite people used to live in Santiago's colonial times. After you're exploring this area, you're going to continue to wander into a neighborhood that's called Barrio Paris Londres, and this will translate into neighborhood Paris London. And so, yes, the name is already going to give you a hint of how this will look because it is kind of like a European neighborhood. It will be a very unique district that will transport you kind of into Europe with all of these cobbled pathways and beautiful preserved old facades. It's very picturesque, but this area is going to hold a lot of history because, for example, there's a place called Londres 38 or London 38, and this is going to be a building within this neighborhood that once served as a detention and torture center during the dictatorship. So don't get scared. Today is going to be only a powerful memorial, but it's going to offer like a somber and crucial at the same time understanding of Chilean's recent history. So it's very interesting to visit and to walk around this neighborhood that will be a mix of modern things but also historical things, and it will be a way to remember while exploring like a true flaneur. After this historical immersion, you can ascend up to Cerro Santa Lucia, which is going to be the most historic mountain, let's say, in Santiago de Chile, because this one is going to be an easy to climb hill, and in this exact place is where the city was founded. This hill is going to have gardens, it also has terraces and some fountains. But from the summit, the most important thing is that you'll be rewarded with a breathtaking panoramic view of all of downtown Santiago. And so all of this view is going to be accompanied by the mountains that Santiago has in the background, which is very, very beautiful. And historically, this very hill, again, I was telling you, is where Pedro de Valdivia, the Spanish conqueror, founded the city in 1541. So it adds another layer of historical significance to this beauty. I have a recording of my own guide and he's explaining a lot of the historical things that happened here at Cerro Santa Lucia. So I'm going to be playing his recording and adding subtitles so you can follow along while he's talking. And that way you can hear a little bit of Chilean history through the voice of a true Chilean.
Esos son los archivos nacionales. La biblioteca se crea en el año 1813, pero el edificio definitivo se construyó en el año 1925. En este lugar tenemos los más importantes documentos de nuestra historia. Y acá está el acta de fundación de Santiago que data del año 1546, siendo que fundamos la ciudad en el año 1541. Tuvimos acá un levantamiento indígena el 11 de septiembre de 1541 que acabó con la ciudad, se quemó la ciudad y se quemó también el acta de fundación. Entonces, como los españoles quedaron sin materiales, ellos escribieron una nueva acta de fundación ese mismo año sobre piel de guanaco. Como la ciudad fue destruida y no quedaron con un chancho y una gallina, eso es lo que les quedó a los españoles. Y tenían que esperar los suministros que venían desde Cusco. Entonces ellos escribieron una nueva acta de fundación sobre piel de guanaco que fue comida por los perros. Y luego, ya cuando llegaron los materiales desde Perú en 1546, se escribió una nueva acta de fundación que es la que tenemos dentro del lugar.
This is a very hectic and also funny story because it demonstrates how hard it was for Spanish people to show that they were founding the city. Technically, they were just arriving and they were taking it from the Mapuches, but so it shows also the resistance that the Mapuches showed in this time. So even though from this hill you're going to be able to see the National Archive building, what you will see inside the building if you enter is only a replica because there's not a true document that says that this city was founded by the Spanish. Now, after you descend from your hill, you can make your way into a very important park that's called the Parque Forestal. And this is going to be a very beautiful park that will be wandering next to the Mapocho River. It's often referred to like the green lung of the city center, and it's an ideal spot if you want to do a picnic. And at the end of this park, you're going to find the elegant neoclassical building of the National Museum of Fine Arts, which is one of Chile's most important art institutions, and it houses an impressive collection of art. Next to this park, you're going to have the Starria neighborhood. And this area is going to be like a hippie vibe or like bohemian vibe because it has a lot of cafes, independent bookstores, lively antique fairs, murals, independent cinemas, and also intimate small theaters. So it's truly going to be a perfect place where you want to wander, be a flaneur, find a relaxing coffee place, or a sun terrace. And so that's what I did during my first day at Santiago. Then the second day at Santiago, I started it off with also another bohemian neighborhood, but this one is going to be across the river. When you go through the Pionono Bridge from La Staria, you'll find yourself in the neighborhood that's called Bella Vista. And this is the most famous bohemian neighborhood because it has a very good nightlife according to locals, but also a lot of bars and restaurants that have every taste. And it also has a lot of street art. So there are some graffiti tours over here that you could take. And within Bellavista, you're also going to find one of the most touristy place in Santiago that's going to be La Chascona. So La Chascona is the house that the legendary poet Pablo Neruda built for his secret love. And if you weren't hearing my previous episode, Pablo Neruda is going to be one of Chile's Nobel Prizes of Literature. This house is truly a one of a kind house because it's filled with a lot of weird things, let's say nautical objects, and it has also original furniture that will tell you its own story. And it has countless fascinating small details that will narrate all of his captivating history. I would suggest visiting it with an audio guide here because this will offer give you the insights and a deep understanding about the poet's extraordinary life and his profound literary work. Then, after you visit La Chascona, you can make your way into one of the other very popular attractions in Santiago, which is going to be Cerro San Cristobal. And this is the highest hill in downtown Santiago, and it will offer very good panoramic views of the city. This hill is actually part of the expansive Parque Metropolitano, which is one of Latin America's largest urban parks. From the very top, you'll be seeing the best panoramic views of the entire city, and you will also see again all of the Andes Mountains that are behind Santiago, which is a perfect mix for this urban and natural view. The park itself is also going to offer you a network of scenic walks. So if maybe you want to stroll around this park or go through a trail, it might also be another good thing to do. And there's also an iconic statue of Virgin of the Immaculate Conception, which is a very prominent and much loved symbol of Santiago. Lastly, if you want to finish your day with all of Santiago's top attractions, then you should go into all of this modern part of Santiago. And this will include neighborhoods such as La Providencia, Las Condes, and Vitacura. I told you I was staying in Providencia, but in all of these neighboring neighborhoods, you're going to see a lot of modern things. One of these ones is in fact called Sanhattan by locals because it's almost like a Manhattan but in Santiago because it has a lot of skyscrapers in the skyline. It shows all of the city's business and shopping malls offering a lot of luxury, chic designer cafes. I have two definite highlights. One of them is going to be Parque Bicentenario, which will be in Vitacura, and this is an ideal spot for a short stroll where you might even be lucky enough to spot the elegant black-necked swans, which are Santiago's national bird. And within this modern expanse, you will also find the second highlight, which is the Costa to be Parque Bicentenario, which will be in Vitacunera Center. This Costanera Center is going to be next to the Costanera skyscraper or the Costanera Tower, which is the tallest skyscraper in all of South America and the second tallest building in all of Latin America. Here, you can go around and also visit the mall because it's a very big mall and it's next to it. So it's going to be very, very nice. If you'd like, you could also go up to the Costanera Tower, up to its 62nd floor, and watch the views from there. I didn't do it, but I've heard that it's also very magnificent. Lastly, I've also heard of people that constantly ask me for more museum recommendations. And even though I didn't stay as long in Santiago as I should have, I do have some extra things that I had on my visit list, but that I didn't do, such as Centro Gabriela Mistral, which is another important center of another Nobel Prize literature winner in Santiago. There's also a museum for human rights. And so this one will demonstrate what was happening with the violation of human rights during the coup d'etat. There's also going to be a Museo Chileno de Arte Precolombino, which will have pottery from most major pre-Columbian cultures. You will also find another museum that's called Museo Rally, and this one is a very little museum on a quite residential street in Vitacura, but will have a stunning collection of contemporary Latin American art. And lastly, you're also going to have the Museum of Solidaridad Salvador Allende. So I didn't visit any of these museums. If you do get to visit them, tell me in the comments if they're worth visiting and help other travelers that might be planning their trip into Santiago. I hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you did, please give me a review or tell me in the comments because this is going to help me tremendously and it will motivate me to create even more podcasts and episodes where I'm sharing all of my travel tips with you. Share this episode with a friend who also wants to travel or is potentially planning a trip into Chile. And stay tuned because next week I'm going to take you into a day trip to Valparaíso and Viña del Mar where we will be exploring all of the things that you can do around Santiago. Enjoy your trip!